Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face, my card making space, and a bunch of cards. Altenew's November release is now live. I will have a link to the release. You can check it out in the description box below. Tons of amazing products. I focused on several of the die sets for today's video, and I made a bunch of cards that are simple in the sense of I just did basic layering of all of these wafer dies. I didn't do, ink blending or anything like that. And then I used an embossing folder and then just very easy ways to add a bit of shimmer, a bit of pop, specifically gold in three different ways because splatter always counts. So, as always, I will have links to everything that I used in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It is what helps pay the bills, keeps the channel going, everything. Today's video is also part of a video hop to share inspiration for this release. I'll have more info on that, again, in the description box below the video. Definitely worth checking out because there is just tons of amazing inspiration, giveaways, all the good things. So check all that out below and then keep watching and I'll show you all how I made these cards. So normally I don't list like all the colors I'm using like on screen in the videos because honestly it's a lot of editing, especially when it's like cardstock, things like that, because I always list everything I use in the description box below the videos. However, because I'm doing multiple cards, I used a lot of cardstock and I'm using different sets, etc. I've listed the colors of the cardstock I used for each set on screen just to make life for all of us just a little bit easier. And this first set is the Coreopsis layering die set. It's got the little keyhole system, so you just line everything up. It's super simple. I did all my die cutting off screen because it's boring to watch that, just run the dies through. Very simple. And then assembling them, everything just lines up. You just match the little keyhole shapes, and depending on the set, most of these sets, with the exception of the fresh flowers, which I'll get to a little later, have numbers also debossed into them, so you know what layer, plus they have the layering guides, which I show like on the back of the packaging, etc. It's all pretty simple. So I did tons of die cutting. I did so much die cutting. Big chunk of the time, really, to make all of this was just the die cutting. And that's where I sit and zone out. That's also why I don't film it, because it's one, boring to watch, and two, I am just zoned out, watching a show, doing whatever, and just die cutting. And then I pile all the pieces up and then assemble. And for these first ones, my little pop of gold, I did the little this right here, this little flower centery part, whatever, I die cut that from Altenew's glitter cardstock from the Gilded set, which I've purchased multiples of over the years and everything. This is the citrine. Pretty sure it was the citrine. There's just a bunch of different shades of gold and then a silver shade in the pack. So I die cut those little pieces from that and then just layered everything up. So we've got just these little pops of sparkly gold on the centers of these flowers. And yeah, they came together really quick, really easy. I just used my craft tacky glue to assemble all the pieces. And then the little tiny buds, same thing. It's just two little layers, super simple. Use my reverse tweezers to hold that little top layer because it's just, they're small, and then that's it. So then the next set I'm using is the Fresh Flowers die set. And this one doesn't have the deboss numbers, for each layer, but it honestly doesn't matter. The dies, the way the dies are laid out, they die cut all the pieces for each flower in one wafer die, basically. So, and then again, they've got the keyhole shape, so you know which goes on. And then I just die cut from multiple colors and then switched up the colors and layered them just to give it that little extra something. And then I did the same thing with these. I die cut just the centers from the glitter cardstock just to give them that little extra pop, and then layered them following the guide. Simple. So So simple. So same thing. Not only did I did all my die cutting, technically at once, but it was done in sessions. And then I did all my layering, you know, assembling, adhering, etc. And like would just sit and layer and just do all of the pieces. So worked my way around and did this one. This set has 2 of this type of flower that I did in the pink shades. There's like a larger one and the smaller one. This one's the larger one. I did the smaller one. And again, they have different keyhole shapes, and the dies themselves have all the pieces you need. And then the actual flower centers, that's like one wafer die. The die cuts all the centers in one pass. So love it. Love it. And then everything just comes together. So this set is part of this release, but this was part of I think it was the Secret Garden retreat. So earlier this year, so anyone who took part in that retreat and got the kit, they'll already have the set, but now it's been been added to the main line, which I was kind of excited about because I really loved this set. When I saw it in the retreat, I was like, oh, that's beautiful. So I did pinks for those flowers, and then I did shades of kind of yellowy, orangey colors for the other flowers. And then the greenery, there's like this big cluster, and then a set that does individual leaves with a bunch of debossing detail. And I actually ended up die cutting the cluster from some brushed gold cardstock, which I'll show when I start assembling. And then my next die set is the Sweet Garden Bird. And this one, again, it's got the numbers debossed. It has 2 different keyhole shapes on the bird. There's like an arrow shape and then like kind of a keyhole shape to line everything up. And again, it's got a whole layering guide. So I just followed the guide and assembled this little dude. And I've got, again, all the colors listed that I use, with the exception, I also used a little teeny scrap of white cardstock for the one portion of the eye. That's the only difference. And yeah, everything just lines up. This was the only piece that I'm adhering right now that that isn't part of the keyhole, but it's obvious because there's, again, deboss detail where it lines up. So I just kept working my way through all the different layers, assembling this little birdie. He's so cute. And you could mix up the colors. You could do more neutrals. I kind of followed closer to the actual packaging because I really liked all these shades of blue and whatnot. But he would look really, really cute. You could do, you know, neutrals like browns and grays and things like that, and he would look really cute with that too. Or you could go completely nuts and do like pinks and like whatever floats your boat. It's card making. It's art. Have fun with it. So same thing. Reverse tweezers for some of these little tiny, like the little tiny dies for the eye, the little beak, and then his little feet. So got him all assembled, and again, not only did I do a ton of die cutting, I die cut everything at least twice because I was like, if I'm going to do it, might as well go big or go home and do multiples. And then this set is the Intertwining leaves die set. And for the first, the smaller leaf cluster, I did a green cardstock, which is Grassfield, vellum for this one layer, and then the gold glitter cardstock for the spines of the leaves. So that's another way to just kind of mix it up and add just like a punch. This would also work for like holiday cards. More ideas. Because there was that cardinal set that was released in a previous month's release, which I need to get to it, hoping to use it for my holiday card series. So just same thing. These were simple, easy. This one doesn't need a keyhole. You just line up the stem, basically, and they all just line up. It's so simple. So simple. Love it. So assembled couple sets of these as well. And then once I've got all of these different die sets assembled, I needed to do backgrounds. And I decided to keep my backgrounds super simple, just basic. I'm using the Leafy Splendor embossing folder, which I used in a previous video I did using Altenew products, and I mentioned in that video, and it holds true to this one too. I love this embossing folder. Love it. There is also a coordinating stencil set that can go with this that I recommend, because depending on what you want to do with it. But for me, I was just using it as just a little additional background texture. So I just ran panels of A2 size cardstock, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches with the folder. So I showed it there on screen so you guys could actually see it, because at the end, my lighting is just odd. And it's a little harder to see, but in real life, we've got the, the raised little bits of the embossed leaves, and it just gives it that little extra something. So after I embossed all of my panels, now I'm going to start assembling all of my card fronts, and I mix them all up instead of just doing the exact same, layouts, etc. I kind of just had fun with it and sort of mixed up some of the different elements, everything. So for these ones with the Coreopsis die set, I used the florals and the greenery from the die set, and then I added the little like twig or branch that I'd made from the intertwining leaves with the gold glitter, just again to add that little pop, that little extra bit. And with these ones, I did one in a like landscape orientation, and I'm going to do one in portrait orientation, just again mixing it up a bit. So gluing all the little bits into place, trimming off anything that, you're not going to see, or just to make things fit, because don't be afraid to just cut apart your die cuts, have fun with it. So I just use liquid glue to adhere everything, just my craft tacky glue. And then like off screen, because I was pushing everything off to more to the side, I would put something heavy, either my magnets or something heavy, just to hold everything down, let that glue dry, and it's good to go. Because I don't apply glue to like everything, just to kind of the center elements, like these, just right down like the center. I let the actual parts of the leaves like pop up. Why not? Creates extra dimension. They don't need to be adhered. Like the glue's going to hold. So kind of sped all this up because again, it's just gluing things down, having fun with it, creating these different little arrangements. So these are going to be my two yellow flower card fronts, and love it. They're just cheerful and happy, So got those adhered. And then for my little birdies, I used the large branch from the intertwining leaves set, and I'm gonna adhere that, and then I'll stick a bird on it, put a bird on it. So, and then any of the little bits hanging over the edges, trim them right off. Just cut them off. It's good to go. So adhered them down, and then same thing, adhered the little birdies, and then I just stuck something heavy on top of it, let that hold everything down, and we're good to go. So same thing, mixed up the orientation on these, one landscape, one portrait, why not? And I didn't mix up like where I placed the cardstock in those embossing folders. I just did the same thing for every single one, and then just rotated the card fronts, because you can't go wrong with greenery. It just works, and an embossed leaf background works for pretty much everything. So then for the fresh flowers dies, I had die cut so many. I had enough for 3 cards. There's just tons left over. And then I die cut that large leaf cluster from some brush gold cardstock. So it's just another way to add a pop of gold. Whether you use like gold glitter cardstock, the brush gold cardstock. I just love, and it just depends on my mood, which one I'm using. I love the sparkle because of course it's glittery, but then like the brush gold or a matte gold cardstock is always, you can never go wrong with that. So I did, I just honestly just slapped everything on, just adhered. And then the individual little leaf wafer dies I die cut, from various green cardstocks, and we just tuck them in here and there, just to fill things out. The sentiment I'll get to, I'm going to show those in a minute. But I already had them like picked out for each of the cards. So I was, kind of figuring out where I wanted to place things and where my sentiment was going to go. Because I did the sentiments when I did everything else. I thought I filmed, assembling the sentiments, but it's no different than the bajillion other videos I've done adhering die cut sentiments together. But like I said, I'll get to that in a second. Because I left all the sentiments off. I just assembled the card fronts because I want to add splatter. Another way to add a touch of shimmer. And for this, Altenew's metallic watercolor palette, which I am loving so very much. So any metallic watercolor will work for this. The biggest thing to always remember is you need to add some water and like either let it sit for a good while, let that water soak in and, soften everything, or just work it up really well with your brush. Either or both works. So I'm using the very shiny gold from this set and, worked it up, and then I applied it to a little acrylic block. This was a trick. My brain stopped. Trick I picked up from Christina Werner's videos eons ago. I don't do this all the time, but this is a way to also add splatter, is to put it on acrylic block, and then you just drag your brush through your little puddle of splatter on the block, and it just kind of flicks it onto your card front. The one thing to remember though when you're doing this, if you're doing multiples like I am, and you're continually applying the whatever product you're using, whether it's paint or metallic watercolors or whatever you're splattering with, when you're applying it to your block and you're doing it over and over again, just be aware that it'll a lot of times will start dripping along the side of the block and onto the bottom. Not the end of the world, but sometimes, especially if you're doing a lot like I am and you're just adding more and more, you could end up getting big droplets just falling off that block. I just wanted to mention that. That actually happened on the next set of cards. I was fine with it, but depending on the look you're going for, you might not want, just a huge splotch. So just kind of pay attention that you don't have, just a big old mess on the block. Just, I don't mind it, but yeah, for some that might not be a good thing. But I was like, woo, huge splotch. It actually happens on the very last card. So I just kept working my way through, sticking these card fronts into my splat box and then adding all of this splatter. And it was on this card on the right that a big blob fell on top of one of the metallic leaves. And I left it right there. See, great big one. But it just worked and it fell in the right spot. I would have been fine if it fell anywhere on the cards. I don't care. I love the splatter. The more the merrier. So I let all those dry. And then, the sentiments. This is the Scripty Sentiments die set. I also think this was part of that Secret Garden retreat. I think it was. It's another good one, and I was very excited to get this one. So I die cut the sentiments that I wanted from the Brush Gold cardstock. And then just the ones with the friend, those ones I did with the gold glitter cardstock, just to mix it up a little bit. But I die cut the sentiments from those. The outlines I die cut from vellum. And then on the backs of all these, after I had assembled them, I had die cut the words from just white cardstock and adhered it to the back. I've talked about this in other videos. This just makes it easier for me to add adhesive to the backs of the sentiments without any adhesive like oozing out on the vellum, because glue shows through vellum. It ain't pretty. Plus, it also just pops that vellum layer up just like a hair, and it finishes it off. So for a couple of the sentiments, depending on where I was hearing them, like on these yellow floral cards, because there was a height difference where the flowers are, I just put a couple little tiny snips of Altenew's foam tape right behind a couple of those letters just to even things out. And then I just adhere everything else with craft tacky glue. And then same thing. Get them adhered, set them aside, let the glue dry. All the sentiments are in place. So another one of those things where even like this whole series of cards, I did everything in batches. Like I did all my die cutting, I did all my assembling, and then I did all my card fronts, and then I adhered all the sentiments. Like you do everything in batches. It just makes everything a lot more streamlined. You don't need to do that for, and do 15 different die sets and, a bunch of cards. But it's like that work. That's how I do it, even if I'm just using just one set of cards, but just working in batches. It makes things a lot easier. And then for the insides of the cards, I pulled sentiments from the Lovely Rose Peony stamp set because there was just a bunch of really good sentiments in there. So I put all my sentiments and I just onto acrylic blocks. You could totally use your stamp wheel or a stamp positioner for this. But because I was doing different orientations of some of these cards, it was faster and easier for me to just use an acrylic block. Because otherwise I would have had to like reposition the sentiments anyway, using my stamp wheel. So I was like, I'll just stick it on a block, stamp it, and we're good. And then I used, of course, fresh dye inks. So for the yellow cards, I used Honey Drizzle and Just Green. For the bird cards, I used Ultramarine and Moss. And then for the fresh flower cards, I'm going to use Berrylicious and Rubellite, all fresh dye inks. And all my card bases are also just top folding A2 white note cards. So 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And so then all of the card fronts will completely cover the card bases. Just simple. So same thing. Stamped all the insides all at the same time. Just use the different colors of inks to kind of give that little extra finishing touch to kind of coordinate the colors with the different colors of cardstock that I used on the card fronts. And I would stamp the main part of the sentiment in one color and then the little companion or finishing part of the sentiment in another color, just for that little extra something. And once I got everything stamped, I adhered the card fronts to the card bases, and that finished them all off. So here's all of my cards. These were a lot of fun. And yeah, they've just got these different little pops of gold from the different little elements, you know, just to mix it up a bit. And then, like I always say, so you can't go wrong with splatter. And then the texture from that embossing folder, which, like I keep saying, I'm obsessed with it. I love it. So fabulous. So, again, all the finished cards, I'll have links to everything will be listed and linked in the description box below the video. So if you just expand it, everything will be there along with all the info about the hop, etc. You can check that all out below. I will have all of the photos of these cards. I'll post all of that on my blog post, which will also be linked directly below the video. So you can check that out as well, because I'm not going to put like every single photo in this video, but I'll have all of that below as well. And then things a little bit more concise and linked in the blog post, because again, this was a lot of cards, a lot of die sets. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting. It helps a ton. It really does. It just tells the robot overlords you like what you see, and it helps boost the algorithm, etc., etc. And I very much appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. I would love to have you. And I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!